What's up, guys? Welcome to this episode of the GrowingAU Show, where we're going over the stock market's winners and losers to help you determine and find the best place for you to put your money in the stock market. Because after all, as we always say, the best way to have your money work for you is to know how your money works. Today, we're actually going to be going over 7 potential winners for the stock market, some of them picked by the Motley Fool themselves, so all of you interested in the Motley Fool, definitely stick around. We're going to be going over the 7 best 5G stocks that you may need to be investing in 2020. More of that to come right after the intro. Welcome to the GrowingAU Show. So before we jump into this, I do want to say really quickly, if you are enjoying the GrowingAU Show, if you're super hyped for this episode, make sure you smash the like button, turn on post notifications, hit the subscribe button, do all the fun stuff down there. It helps us with the YouTube algorithm, and it helps you make sure you stay up to date on all the stuff happening with the stock market. So if you do that, I really highly appreciate it. As always, a whole bunch of useful stuff in the description below, free ebooks, free email lists, free stocks in the stock market, as well as a 16-book list of all and very super valuable finance books to help you get started on your financial freedom journey and investing in the stock market. All that down there, whole bunch of resources. Take advantage of them. I really appreciate it, guys. Let's jump into the video. When it comes to 5G companies, there's really 2 types of companies you can invest in. You can invest in the gold mines, or you can invest in the pickaxe companies. The gold mine companies are companies like Apple, Google, Verizon, AT&T that are going to be providing either 5G products or 5G service to the customers in the market. The pickaxe companies are going to be the people that are providing the 5G infrastructure, whether that be the parts for the chips, whether that be the parts for spreading 5G signal to those gold mine companies that allows their products to actually have value and use for their customers. So you can decide what side of the coin you want to be investing on, the gold mines or the pickaxe companies. There's money to be made in both places, and we're going to be going over both types of companies here today. Qualcomm. Many of you have probably heard of Qualcomm before. You're familiar with what they do, and if you're not, I'm going to give you some quick pointers about Qualcomm right here, right now. Qualcomm falls into the pickaxe group. Qualcomm is a chip maker company. They're providing some of the chips and processors that goes into some of these 5G products. Some things you need to know is that Apple in 2019 signed a deal with Qualcomm that allows Qualcomm to supply the chips for the iPhone for at least the next 6 years. And we know for a fact that by 2025 that the 5G market is going to be very mainstream. It's going to take the world by storm, and that's going to be very prevalent in those days. 5G is already increasing exponentially in 2020 compared to 2019. In fact, total sales for the first quarter of 2020 when it comes to the 5G phones and 5G products already exceed complete total sales for the entire year of 2019. So already a lot happening with 5G. So 5 years from now, even more so, and Qualcomm has that really tight deal with Apple. Some quick stats about Qualcomm for you. They are up about 8.89% over the last 5 years, but unfortunately, due to the pandemic, which they were hit very hard by, are down 10.11% over the last year. Also, like a couple of the companies on this list, and we'll talk about that, there are a lot of companies being affected by the trade war with China, and that's really affecting their one-year growth as well. So it's kind of skewed, and when we take out that trade war, we see that the growth would have been much higher than what it currently is sitting at. But despite that, Qualcomm's getting a lot of attention. They're a very reputable company. A lot of investors are very serious about the Qualcomm investments, and it's a company that I highly recommend you do more research on before you invest, obviously, but you do start taking very seriously when it comes to the 5G blowout. The next company we want to be talking about today is a company I personally never heard of called Ericsson. Now, Ericsson is a Swedish equipment communications company, and they already a key player, as this article says, in the global rollout of 5G, already having multiple deals and helping multiple companies. So what they're doing is they are specializing in software and radio network hardware. We talked about the trade war and a lot of these companies having deals with Chinese OEM, which is original equipment manufacturers for these different types of smartphones, and Ericsson is no exception to that. They actually have a major licensing deal with the smartphone manufacturer in China known as Oppo. So that is obviously, now they're a Swedish company, so maybe not hurt as much by the trade deal, but still a lot of these companies are being hurt by that trade deal. And I want to keep stressing that right now the current sittings of some of these 5G companies are a bit skewed by that data. Ericsson's current standings are down about 25% over the last 5 years and down 9.16% over the last year. So kind of a negative looking stock, sitting right about $8 in their share price. So some definitely possible future moves there, but right now not looking super great as far as the numbers are concerned. But as always, there's more to know than just the numbers, so I highly recommend you do that research. All right. Next company we want to talk about today is Xilinx. So Xilinx is a $22 billion chip maker, is one of the earliest companies to cash in on the next generation of wireless networking. Xilinx will be a direct beneficiary since its chips are used as components in much of the 5G build-out. An impressive portfolio of radio frequency and system-on-chip technologies now can be used in all spectrum bands of 6 gigahertz, which will be important to helping the 5G product. That's a lot of information that I didn't understand when I first read it, and I went to do a little bit more information on that. What you need to know is that Xilinx is producing, again, some of the pickaxes for the gold mines, and they have deals with a lot of the gold mines, putting them in a very great position. So Xilinx, another one of the chip and software manufacturers for the 5G phones. And Xilinx, one of their biggest claims to fame, Victor Peng, their CEO, has just talked about a recent design contract with Samsung to actually produce their second generation 5G radios. So a big design contract for Xilinx right there. They are up 86.16% over the last 5 years. And as we see, they are down 24.33% over the last year. They were definitely hit hard, both by the coronavirus and the trade war, kind of a double whammy hit on Xilinx there that is really they've had a hard time coming back from, but still up 86% over the last 5 years. So definitely some research to be doing on Xilinx. The next 5G stock we need to look at today is actually my personal favorite, and if I invest in any of these, it's definitely going to be this one, and that is Crown Castle. Now, why am I so interested in Crown Castle? Well, Crown Castle actually has some interesting leverageable positioning to their name. So what they do is they are the last leg of the 5G transmission puzzle. They bring everything together, right? Crown Castle is a company that specializes in small node cell towers. You're probably familiar with 4G cell towers, those massive giant structures that put the Burj Khalifa to shame sometimes. Those massive towers allow a very strong 4G signal to be sent over a very wide area. Unfortunately, 5G is not going to be able to happen in the same way. The 5G signal, as we'll call it, needs to be transmitted over it's basically just a several hundred yards. This is about as far as it can be transmitted. That has to do a little bit with the power, the size of the signal, and the connection that the user needs to have to the 5G network. So it can only be transmitted over a couple several hundred yards of space. And what Crown Castle does is they produce very small node cell towers that are good for producing signal and pushing it over a very small area. Now, the major competitors to Crown Castle specialize in the large-scale 4G cell towers, and the bears against Crown Castle complain that Crown Castle doesn't specialize in the large towers. Well, those large towers, when it comes to the rollout of 5G, are going to be completely obsolete, putting Crown Castle in a super leverageable position to actually make a lot of money and potential profits from the 5G rollout. The reason for that being is that these companies like Verizon and AT&T that need to provide network, they're not going to go out and build their own cell towers. They're going to rent and use the cell towers that are already put in place by Crown Castle, which right now they have about 70,000 cell towers in place or under contract. So a lot of infrastructure there by Crown Castle. Their major complaint that they don't produce the large cell towers and that their competitors do will soon be in their favor because those large cell towers aren't going to work. And the switching costs for these networks to leave Crown Castle to go to some other small node producer is going to be very high because Crown Castle is currently leading that market space. The other thing we want to mention is that they pay a 2.9% dividend, so that's not too bad either. Some other quick analytical stats about Crown Castle is that they are currently up 80.46% over the last 5 years and up 18.11% over the last year. I am definitely going to be doing more research into Crown Castle. You can expect a Crown Castle video here on the channel. I'm definitely interested in that stock. But next up, we're going to be going over and switching to one of the gold mine companies, that being Verizon Tech. Now, what a lot of the experts are saying about Verizon Tech and the other US telecoms is that if you want high staying power and high dividends, then the US telecoms are the place to invest. Now, why Verizon over all the other ones? Now, I'm going to try to make this as simple as possible, and to do that, I'm going to read it right from the article. So here we go. Verizon dominates the ownership of key 5G spectrum bands, controlling roughly twice as much millimeter wave spectrum as its closest rival, AT&T. So what that basically means is that of all the spectrum wavelengths that you can be controlling when it comes to 5G, Verizon owns most of it compared to its closest rival. So it puts them in a very powerful and dominating position when it comes to that side of the market. Oh, and of course, a 4.2% dividend never hurt anyone either. Some quick facts about Verizon. They are currently up 9.14% over the last 5 years, but unfortunately down 4.5% over the last year. So definitely one of the gold mine companies you should be looking into and potentially one of the hot stocks when it comes to the 5G rollout in 2020 and beyond. So next up, we have a company called Marrvel. And here's the interesting thing about Marrvel, and I don't mean Tony Stark and Captain America, but what I find interesting about Marrvel, or maybe it's Marrvel, I'm not exactly quite sure on the direct pronunciation, but what's interesting about that company is they're kind of a gold mine that produces their own pickaxes. And I'm going to get into that a little bit. Marrvel is what's being talked about as possibly the long-term gains when it comes to 5G. So let's talk about exactly what it is that Marrvel is doing. So they are a consumer semiconductor producing company, and it has its hand in a number of high-growth, interrelated areas, including 5G, cloud, and artificial intelligence, enterprise hardware, and the automated space, especially after its $6 billion Cavium acquisition in 2018. Marrvel is definitely a long-term play on 5G. As we talked about, that is what they have a lot of areas that are going to be potentially affected by 5G. What that means is 5G is what's going to allow some of these technologies of the future, as we will call them, actually become a reality. That there's things like, it's called the Internet of Things, IoT. It talks about the connectivity of machines without human and manual interaction. Smart cars, smart cities, better technological and robotic medicine. All of these things that we have dreamed of, that we have developed, that we have the infrastructure for, that is missing one leg, and that's the connectivity that is going to be replaced by 5G. 5G is going to really make some of these things possible. And what I understand by Marrvel is that they have their hands in a lot of those areas that are going to actually become very prevalent, and even more so over the next couple years as 5G begins its major rollout across the world. And then finally, some quick metrics on Marrvel. So they're up 85.11% over the last 5 years and up 16.1% over the last year, and a current stock price of $26.23. That's also a company I'm going to be checking out. So let's now move on to the last company of our list today. Finally, one of the goldmine companies many of you will know, Apple. I don't think I need to speak much for Apple. Most of you know what's going on with Apple. They are a very highly reputable company. They're going to be one of the major players in the 5G market. Some quick stats on Apple: up 140% over the last 5 years and up 61.46% over the last year, with a current stock price of about $300. So Apple, they're going to be in a potentially very leverageable position to continue to grow as 5G is rolled out to the market, and it's going to be very interesting to see what happens there. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. As I said, this is a very quick overview of some of the major 5G players that we need to be paying attention to in 2020. There's a lot more to know about these companies, whether or not you should invest in them, whether you shouldn't invest in them. There's so much more information we need to take a look at. And with that being said, guys, I do hope you enjoyed. Make sure you smash the like button, hit that subscribe button if you really enjoyed. And as always, be sure to take advantage of all those resources that we have in the description for you. A lot of stuff down there for you to check out, browse around, see what is interesting to you. Appreciate everyone watching today. Let me know what you think about these stocks. Which one do you want us to review? Comment down below, and we'll see you next time.